She hid her pregnancy and disappeared. The CEO was surprised to see her 2 children 5 years later. The gleaming kitchen of Savour, Boston's most anticipated restaurant opening of the year, hummed with focused energy. Lila Bennett moved through her domain with practiced grace, her dark hair secured beneath a crisp white chef's cap. At 32, she had built her reputation through determination and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Tonight would cement her status among the culinary elite or shatter everything she'd worked for. 5 minutes to first seating called out her sous chef, Michael. Lila nodded, surveying the immaculate workstations. Everything must be perfect, she murmured, more to herself than her staff. Perfect had to be the standard tonight. She couldn't afford any distractions, especially with her twin boys spending the evening with their grandmother. The thought of Lucas and Nathan brought a smile to her face at 5 years old. They were bundles of endless energy and curiosity, their matching green eyes always sparkling with mischief. Those eyes. Lila pushed the thought away. She couldn't think about their father. Not tonight. Chef Regina, her maitre d', appeared at the kitchen entrance. The first guests are being seated, including some VIP tables. Excellent. Let's make this night memorable. Lila clapped her hands, drawing her team's attention. Remember, every dish tells a story. Let's make sure ours is unforgettable. The kitchen burst into synchronized movement as the first orders began arriving. Lila lost herself in the familiar rhythm, the sizzle of pans, the precise chopping of herbs, the artistic plating of dishes. This was her element, where she felt most in control. That control shattered 90 minutes into service. Chef Regina's voice carried an unusual tremor. There's someone at table 12 who's specifically requesting to speak with you. We're in the middle of service, Lila responded without looking up from the delicate sauce she was finishing. Unless Gordon Ramsay himself is out there, it can wait. It's Regina hesitated. It's Ethan Coleman. The ladle in Lila's hand clattered against the pot. For a moment the kitchen's cacophony faded to white noise. 5 years. It had been 5 years since she'd heard that name spoken aloud, though it had echoed in her mind every time she looked at her sons. Chef Michael's concerned voice brought her back to reality. Do you need me to take over? Lila straightened her spine, squaring her shoulders. No, I've got this. She handed the sauce to Michael with steady hands. Finish this with a touch of tarragon. I'll be back in 5 minutes. The walk from kitchen to dining room felt like traversing a minefield. Each step brought her closer to the past she'd carefully walled away. In the unforgiving world of fine dining, Lila Bennett had carved her path with a determination born of necessity. At 32, she stood as a testament to resilience, though few knew the true weight she carried. Her journey to becoming one of Boston's rising culinary stars began not in prestigious cooking schools, but in the humble kitchens of Chicago's bustling restaurants, where she worked double shifts while pursuing her culinary dreams. The daughter of a high school literature teacher, Patricia Bennett, Lila learned early that success demanded sacrifice. Her mother's modest salary meant opportunities came through merit rather than privilege. Through high school, she worked part-time in local diners, falling in love with the orchestrated chaos of professional kitchens. It was in those steamy, loud spaces that she found her calling, watching seasoned chefs transform simple ingredients into works of art. By 25, Lila had worked her way up from dishwasher to sous chef at one of Chicago's most prestigious restaurants. Her talent for innovative flavor combinations and unwavering standards caught the attention of critics and fellow chefs alike. Yet it was during this ascent that fate dealt her both a blessing and a challenge, a chance meeting with Ethan Coleman that would alter the course of her life. Now, as owner and executive chef of Savour, Lila's public persona revealed only half the story. To the culinary world, she was the talented chef who'd appeared seemingly out of nowhere in Boston, bringing with her a fresh perspective on classic New England cuisine. Her dedication to sourcing local ingredients and supporting small farmers had earned her respect in the tight-knit restaurant community. But behind the pristine chef's whites and confident demeanor lay a woman who'd spent 5 years looking over her shoulder. The twins, Lucas and Nathan, were her anchor and her purpose. Every decision, every careful step forward was calculated to protect them. In Lucas, she saw an old soul, thoughtful, observant, always asking questions that belied his 5 years. Nathan was her firecracker, rushing headlong into life with boundless enthusiasm. Both boys bore their father's striking green eyes, a daily reminder of the man she'd left behind and the life she'd fled. Lila had built Saveur from nothing, refusing investors who might ask too many questions about her past. The renovation of the historic brownstone had consumed her savings, but she'd insisted on maintaining complete control. The restaurant's success was a testament to her skill and vision, but also to the loyal staff who'd become a surrogate family. Michael, her sous chef, never questioned why she insisted on background checks for all employees. Regina, the maitre d', intuitively ran interference when curious patrons asked too many personal questions. In the privacy of her office, Lila kept a worn leather journal, its pages filled with recipes and memories she hoped to share with her sons someday. Each entry began with "when you're older," a promise to eventually explain why they'd moved so often in their early years, why they had no father present in their lives, why their grandmother was their only extended family. The weight of secrets had aged her beyond her years, though she carried it with grace. Her hands, skilled in the precise cuts and techniques of her craft, bore small scars from years of kitchen work. Each mark told a story: the burn from her first attempt at flambé, the cut from a slipped knife during her earliest days as a line cook, the calluses built through countless hours of preparation. Patricia had been her rock through it all, never questioning why her daughter appeared on her doorstep 5 years ago, pregnant and terrified. Her mother had sold her cherished collection of first editions to help finance their fresh start, moving with them to Boston to provide the stability the twins would need. Together, they'd created a careful routine: Patricia watching the boys during Lila's long restaurant hours, maintaining their small but close-knit world. The culinary industry knew Lila Bennett as a perfectionist who ran her kitchen with military precision. Every dish that left her pass had to meet exacting standards. Every ingredient was carefully sourced, every plate artfully presented. This attention to detail had earned severe glowing reviews and a growing reputation, but few recognized it for what it truly was: a fortress built of routine and excellence, designed to protect the precious life she'd constructed for her sons. In quiet moments, when the kitchen was still and the twins were asleep, Lila would sometimes allow herself to remember Chicago, the taste of deep dish pizza shared on cold winter nights, the sound of jazz drifting from blues bars, the feel of expensive sheets in a penthouse apartment. But those memories belonged to another life, one she'd walked away from to protect not just herself, but the man she loved and the children he didn't know existed. Now, as Saveur prepared for its grand opening, Lila stood at another crossroads. Success would bring scrutiny, attention she'd carefully avoided. Yet she couldn't deny her sons the stability and opportunities that success would provide. Every morning, she rose before dawn to begin prep work, her mind always alert for signs of the past catching up with her. Every evening, she returned home to homework sessions and bedtime stories, treasuring the simple moments that made their unusual life feel normal. This was the complex tapestry of Lila Bennett: chef, mother, protector. A woman who'd learned to trust her instincts in both the kitchen and life, who'd found strength in the very secrets that threatened to destroy everything she'd built. As Severe's opening night approached, she held tight to the hope that her children's future would justify the choices of her past. Ethan Coleman commanded respect in every boardroom he entered, though the weight of his success felt hollow. At 40, he stood at the helm of Coleman Industries, one of America's largest private corporations, carrying both the privilege and burden of his family's legacy. His corner office on the 50th floor of Coleman Tower offered sweeping views of Boston's skyline, but his gaze often drifted to the framed photo on his desk, a candid shot from 5 years ago, capturing a moment of pure joy with a woman whose disappearance still haunted him. The path to his current position had been mapped out since birth. As the eldest son of Richard Coleman, Ethan was groomed for leadership from his first steps. Private schools, Harvard Business School, and carefully orchestrated internships shaped him into the corporate warrior his father envisioned. Yet beneath the tailored suits and commanding presence lay a man shaped equally by personal loss. His relationship with his younger brother Robert had once been the cornerstone of his life. 3 years apart in age, they shared the pressures of the Coleman name and the expectations it carried. While Ethan excelled in the corporate arena, Robert's brilliant mind found its home in the complex world of international finance. They should have been the perfect team until love and ambition created an irreparable rift. The last 5 years had transformed Ethan. The sudden disappearance of Lila Bennett, just when he'd planned to propose, left him with questions that consumed countless sleepless nights. Private investigators found no trace. It was as if she'd vanished into thin air. The carefully planned future he'd imagined, a life beyond boardrooms and balance sheets, evaporated overnight. In the aftermath, Ethan threw himself into reshaping Coleman Industries. Under his leadership, the company expanded aggressively into new markets, earning him a reputation as a ruthless but ethical businessman. His dedication to corporate transparency and environmental responsibility set new industry standards. Yet each success felt empty, measured against the life he'd almost had. The strain between the Coleman brothers reached its breaking point 2 years ago, when Robert died in a skiing accident in Switzerland. The loss shook Ethan deeply, compounded by lingering questions about his brother's final years. The official investigation revealed concerning patterns in Robert's international dealings, though nothing could be proven conclusively. Ethan's daily routine became his armor. Early morning workouts in his private gym, back-to-back meetings, late nights reviewing contracts, anything to keep moving, to avoid the quiet moments when memories surfaced. His executive assistant, Sarah Mitchell, managed his life with military precision, knowing instinctively when to push and when to provide space. Despite his wealth and influence, Ethan maintained few close relationships. James Martinez, his head of security, was perhaps the closest thing to a friend. A former Special Forces operator, Martinez understood the loneliness of command and the weight of responsibility. Their conversations, usually over late-night whiskey in Ethan's office, were among the few times he allowed his guard to drop. The Coleman name opened doors throughout Boston's elite social circles, but Ethan moved through charity galas and social events like a ghost, going through required motions while remaining fundamentally apart. Society columnists speculated about his perpetual bachelor status, unaware that his heart remained trapped in a Chicago penthouse 5 years in the past. His father's death last year left Ethan as the sole guardian of the Coleman legacy. The old man's final words, a cryptic warning about protecting what matters, haunted him. Richard Coleman had built an empire, but died alone in his mansion, surrounded by wealth but estranged from those he loved. Ethan saw his possible future in that solitary passing. The investigation into Robert's activities continued quietly, funded from Ethan's personal accounts. Each new discovery raised more questions about his brother's final years, suspicious financial transactions, mysterious meetings, patterns that suggested a deeper game. Yet loyalty to his brother's memory kept him from pushing too hard, afraid of what he might uncover. In rare moments of vulnerability, usually late at night in his empty penthouse, Ethan allowed himself to imagine a different life. He'd kept the engagement ring tucked away in his desk drawer, a princess-cut diamond that would have looked perfect on Lila's hand. Sometimes he caught himself checking faces in crowds, searching for her dark hair and confident stride, though logic told him she was long gone. The irony of his position wasn't lost on him. As CEO of Coleman Industries, he commanded resources that could track anyone, anywhere. Yet the one person he desperately wanted to find had slipped through his fingers. His power, which could reshape markets and influence global policy, proved useless in healing his personal wounds. Recent board meetings had focused on succession planning, a topic that picked at old scars. Without heirs, the future of Coleman Industries remained uncertain. Ethan's commitment to ethical business practices had earned both admirers and enemies, particularly among old guard board members who prioritized profit over principle. The pressure to marry and produce an heir grew with each passing year. Yet something held him back, a combination of loyalty to a ghost and an inexplicable feeling that his life was about to change. Perhaps it was the upcoming charity event at Franklin Park Zoo, or the recent rumors about Robert's old associates surfacing in Singapore. Whatever it was, Ethan felt the familiar weight of family secrets pressing against his carefully constructed walls. The constellation of lives orbiting around Lila and Ethan created a complex web of loyalty, secrets, and unspoken truths. At the center were the twins Lucas and Nathan Bennett, whose existence would soon shake the foundations of the Coleman Empire. Lucas James Bennett, older by 7 minutes, carried himself with a gravity that belied his 5 years. His green eyes, mirror images of his father's, observed the world with quiet intensity. In school, his teachers marveled at his advanced reading level and persistent curiosity. He'd inherited his mother's methodical nature, organizing his crayons by color and insisting on precise routines, but he'd also inherited something deeper, an instinctive need to protect, particularly his younger brother. Nathan Alexander Bennett burst into rooms like sunshine after rain. Where Lucas calculated, Nathan leapt. His boundless energy sometimes exhausted his teachers, but his genuine warmth and infectious laugh made him impossible to resist. Yet beneath his carefree exterior lay a sensitivity that revealed itself in small moments, when he noticed his mother's tired eyes, or when Lucas had a bad day. The brothers, despite their differences, operated as a single unit, their bond strengthened by their unusual upbringing. Patricia Bennett, Lila's mother, served as their fortress. At 65, she'd transformed her retirement plans into a mission of protection. Her modest home in suburban Boston became their sanctuary, filled with the books she'd once taught and the warmth her daughter needed. A former high school English teacher, Patricia brought structure to the twins' early education, weaving literature and imagination into their daily lives. Her sharp mind caught subtleties others missed, making her an invaluable guardian of their secrets. Amanda Porter's role in this drama remained hidden in plain sight. As former chief financial officer of Coleman Industries, her apparent death in a car accident 3 years ago concealed a deeper truth. In life, she'd been known for her brilliant financial strategies and unwavering integrity. Few knew of her brief romance with Ethan, or how it ended when she discovered troubling patterns in the company's international transactions. Her death provided cover for a meticulous investigation into Robert Coleman's activities, driven by both professional duty and personal vendetta. Robert Coleman cast a long shadow even in apparent death. The younger Coleman brother had mastered the art of smiling in boardrooms while orchestrating complex financial schemes behind the scenes. His childhood memories of being compared unfavorably to Ethan festered into toxic ambition. Yet there had been moments of genuine brotherhood, teaching Ethan to swim, defending him in school fights, celebrating his successes. The twist from protector to destroyer happened so gradually that few noticed until it was too late. Michael Chen, Lila's sous chef at Savour, carried his own weight of loyalty. A culinary prodigy who'd turned down prestigious positions to work with Lila, he sensed the secrets behind her careful facade. His quiet support manifested in small ways, handling media inquiries, screening unusual requests, maintaining the kitchen's strict security protocols. His friendship offered Lila a rare chance to lower her guard, if only during late-night menu planning sessions. Regina Walsh, Savour's maitre d', brought 30 years of front-of-house experience and an uncanny ability to read people. Her network of connections throughout Boston's restaurant scene provided early warnings of food critics, significant guests, or unusual inquiries about Lila's past. A mother herself, Regina recognized the fierce protection in Lila's eyes when she spoke of her sons. James Martinez, head of security for Coleman Industries, carried the bearing of his special forces background in every movement. His loyalty to Ethan went beyond professional duty, born from a shared understanding of command's isolation. Martinez's quiet competence masked a brilliant strategic mind that had already begun connecting dots others missed. Sarah Mitchell, Ethan's executive assistant, managed more than his schedule. Over 7 years, she'd become keeper of his confidences, guardian of his privacy, and occasional voice of reason. Her discreet handling of personal matters, including the annual renewal of private investigators searching for Lila, spoke to her understanding of the man behind the CEO title. The Coleman Industries Board of Directors functioned as a Greek chorus to this unfolding drama. Old guard members like William Blackwood represented entrenched interests resistant to Ethan's ethical reforms. Younger directors like Maya Patel supported his vision for corporate responsibility. Their political maneuvering created currents that would soon collide with personal vendetta. The staff at Saveur formed a protective circle around their chef and her children. Line cooks, servers and kitchen porters, many given second chances by Lila, repaid her trust with fierce loyalty. They created a surrogate family, celebrating the twins' birthdays in the kitchen, covering for emergency absences, maintaining careful silence about their chef's personal life. Patricia's neighbors in suburban Boston played their own role in maintaining normalcy for the twins. Carol Anderson, retired nurse next door, provided backup childcare. The Miller family's sons became the twins' first real friends, offering playdates and birthday parties that felt blessedly ordinary. The Boston restaurant community, though curious about Lila's sudden appearance and rapid success, respected her privacy. Fellow chefs recognized her talent and work ethic, supporting Saveur through word-of-mouth recommendations and professional courtesy. Their acceptance provided crucial legitimacy to her carefully constructed new life. Even the regular customers at Saveur unknowingly participated in this complex dance. The Tuesday night regulars who delighted in the twins' occasional appearances in the dining room. The food critics who praised Lila's innovative menus without prying into her background. The local farmers and suppliers who became part of Saveur's extended family. The grand opening of Saveur represented everything Lila Bennett had worked toward and everything she feared. The restored brownstone glowed with warmth on this autumn evening, its windows casting golden light onto the historic Boston street. Inside, the dining room hummed with anticipation as the city's elite gathered to experience what food critics had already begun whispering about: the emergence of a major new talent in the culinary world. The private dining room hosted James Beard Award winners, restaurant critics from major publications, and influential food bloggers. Their presence marked Saveur's arrival on the national culinary scene, but also threatened the careful anonymity Lila had maintained. But each Instagram post, each review, each photograph increased the risk of her past catching up with her present. In the kitchen, Lila orchestrated her team with precision born of countless rehearsals. Michael executed each dish with flawless technique, while line cooks moved in practiced synchronization. The menu showcased her signature-style classic New England ingredients elevated through French technique and subtle Asian influences. Each plate told a story of her journey, though none of her guests could read between the lines. Regina masterfully managed the dining room, her experienced eye catching every detail. When she noticed a food critic from the Boston Globe photographing each course, she discreetly informed the kitchen. When a well-known chef requested to speak with Lila, she smoothly explained that the chef was occupied with service. Her practiced deflections maintained the barrier between Lila's public and private lives. The evening progressed like a well-rehearsed symphony until the first discordant note struck. A prominent food blogger posted a photo that caught Lila in the background consulting with a server. Within minutes, The image circulated through Boston's foodie community. Comments noted her youth, her intensity, her clear command of the kitchen. But one comment, quickly deleted, mentioned Chicago and a different name. Lila felt the shift during the second seating. More phones pointed toward the kitchen, more guests requested to meet the chef. The attention she'd carefully avoided for 5 years now focused on her with uncomfortable intensity. Each time the kitchen doors swung open, she glimpsed more curious faces trying to peer in, more cameras ready to capture her image. The pressure mounted as local news crews arrived outside, drawn by social media buzz about Boston's newest culinary destination. Their presence sent a spike of fear through Lila, fear that had nothing to do with reviews or ratings. But every flash of cameras, every broadcast van, increased the chance that her carefully constructed world would unravel. Michael noticed her tension and smoothly took over expediting, allowing Lila to retreat to her office for a moment of composure. Through the window, she watched reporters interviewing departing guests. A text from Patricia reassured her that the twins were safely asleep, unaware of their mother's moment of crisis. Returning to the kitchen, Lila forced herself to focus on the precise movements of cooking, the familiar rhythm of service. Each perfect dish that left her past represented another brick in the wall protecting her son's future. Yet even as she garnished plates with practiced grace, she felt control slipping away. The turning point came when Regina appeared with news that a food critic's review was already online. The glowing praise should have brought joy; instead, it brought photos. Professional shots of the dining room, candid images of the kitchen, and most worryingly, a clear photo of Lila directing her team. The article praised her innovative approach and mysterious background, noting that little was known about her training or experience before Boston. Social media exploded with speculation. Food industry professionals who'd worked in Chicago began commenting, making connections. Old photos surfaced from her previous life, younger, different hair, but unmistakably her. The carefully maintained wall between past and present developed its first cracks. As midnight approached and the last guests departed, Lila gathered her team for the traditional post-service meeting. Their faces showed equal parts exhaustion and triumph, unaware of their chef's inner turmoil. She praised their execution, announced the excellent early reviews, and tried to ignore the growing knot in her stomach. After the staff departed, Lila sat alone in her office, monitoring the growing online discussion about Severe's mysterious chef. Her phone buzzed constantly with congratulatory messages from industry colleagues, each one increasing her anxiety. Among them, a text from an unknown number stopped her heart. "Excellent opening night, chef. Your sons must be proud." Regina found her there an hour later, still staring at the message. The maitre d' took one look at Lila's face and closed the office door. "What do you need?" she asked simply, her years of experience reading between the lines. "Time," Lila answered. "And possibly a miracle." The success of Severe's opening night should have marked the beginning of Lila's triumph. Instead, as she drove home through Boston's quiet streets, she realized it might mark the beginning of the end. The twins' bedroom light glowed softly as she parked Patricia, waiting up. As always, tomorrow would bring more attention, more questions, more risk. The spotlight she'd carefully avoided now shone directly on her, threatening to illuminate the secrets she'd sacrificed everything to protect. The first signs of Robert Coleman's elaborate surveillance network emerged 3 days after Severe's opening. Lila noticed it while reviewing security footage, with Michael, a man in a dark suit, appearing repeatedly in the background, always positioned to observe the kitchen entrance. His face was never clearly visible, but his presence sent chills down her spine. That same afternoon, Patricia called with disturbing news. While taking the twins to their favorite park, she spotted a photographer using a long-range lens. When confronted, he claimed to be shooting birds, but his camera was focused on the playground. The incident triggered memories Lila had suppressed similar figures in Chicago, the feeling of being watched, the warnings that had driven her to flee. James Martinez, reviewing severe security protocols at Ethan's request, discovered sophisticated monitoring devices hidden in the restaurant's electrical system. The technology was expensive, professional grade, suggesting resources beyond ordinary corporate espionage. More disturbing was the timestamp some devices had been installed months before the restaurant opened. The evidence mounted rapidly. Regular customers suddenly revealed themselves as plants, their conversations carefully designed to extract information. Delivery schedules were compromised, suggesting inside knowledge of the restaurant's operations. Even the twin school reported unusual inquiries about their enrollment from someone claiming to represent a prestigious private academy. Patricia began noticing small disturbances in her home, items slightly moved, windows unlocked, though she distinctly remembered securing them. Her neighbors reported unknown vehicles parked for hours, disappearing whenever anyone approached. The pattern was clear: someone had been watching, waiting, gathering intelligence on every aspect of their lives. The scope of surveillance became apparent when Martinez's team swept Lila's apartment. Hidden cameras covered every entrance. Her phone had been cloned, her emails monitored, her movements tracked through carefully positioned observers. The operation spoke of resources and patience that pointed to one source: Robert Coleman, who was supposed to be dead. Private investigators hired by Ethan uncovered a network extending back to Chicago. Former neighbors, co-workers, even casual acquaintances had been approached and questioned. Bank records showed regular payments to surveillance firms, all traced through shell companies bearing Robert's distinctive financial fingerprints. He had never lost track of her, had known about the twins from the beginning. Most chilling were the photographs Martinez discovered, years of surveillance documented in clinical detail. The twins' first steps in Patricia's backyard. Lila's early days working in Boston restaurants. School performances, doctor appointments, shopping trips, their entire lives catalogued by an unseen observer. Each image represented a moment when they'd been vulnerable, unaware of the lens capturing their movements. The revelation struck Lila like a physical blow. Every precaution she'd taken, every careful step to protect her children, had been observed and recorded. The safety she'd thought she'd built was an illusion. Robert had allowed her to feel secure while documenting every detail of their lives, preparing for some larger plan. Security footage from the twin school revealed regular visits from a man matching Robert's description, always careful to remain at a distance. He'd watched their soccer practices, attended their school events, played the role of distant guardian while gathering intelligence for an unknown purpose. The thought of him so close to her children made Lila physically ill. Patricia's investigation of her own home revealed the extent of penetration. Her phone had been compromised, her computer monitored, even her car tracked. The surveillance extended to her friends and neighbors, creating a comprehensive picture of the twins' daily routine. Robert had effectively mapped every aspect of their lives. The restaurant staff, when quietly questioned, recalled numerous incidents: customers asking unusual questions, deliveries arriving at odd hours, strange technical difficulties with security systems. Each event, seemingly innocent at the time, now formed part of a larger pattern of observation and infiltration. Martinez's team discovered listening devices in Lila's car, her office, even her private apartment. The technology was cutting edge, suggesting significant investment in maintaining surveillance. More disturbing were signs that the monitoring had intensified in recent months, as if building towards some crucial moment. Financial records revealed a complex web of payments and shell companies, all designed to support long-term surveillance operations. The sophistication suggested Robert had been planning this for years, investing substantial resources in maintaining constant observation. His apparent death had provided perfect cover for his activities. The twins' pediatrician reported unusual requests for medical records from sources claiming legal authority. Their teachers mentioned strange phone calls asking about their development and routines. Even their favorite parks and playgrounds had been monitored, creating a complete picture of their movements and habits. Local businesses near Seville reported being approached by investigators seeking information about Lila and her children. Some had been offered significant payments for cooperation, others subtle threats if they refused. Robert had created a network of informants throughout their neighborhood. Lucas and Nathan's discovery of their father's identity unfolded on a quiet Sunday morning, when the truth could no longer be contained. It began with a simple question over breakfast, sparked by a newspaper lying open on Patricia's kitchen table. The business section featured Ethan Coleman's photo, announcing a major corporate acquisition. Mum, Lucas said, studying the image with his characteristic intensity, "Why does that man have our eyes?" The innocent question froze Lila mid-motion, coffee cup halfway to her lips. Nathan, usually bouncing with energy, still beside his brother, both boys fixing their mother with identical green gazes that now carried crushing significance. "He looks like us," Nathan added, pressing his finger to Ethan's photo. "See? Even his smile is like Lucas's when he's being serious." Patricia quietly excused herself, leaving Lila alone to face the moment she'd both dreaded and anticipated for 5 years. Her sons, perceptive beyond their years, sensed the weight of the situation. Lucas, ever protective, moved closer to Nathan, their shoulders touching in silent support. "Is he?" Lucas hesitated, showing rare uncertainty. "Is he our dad?" Lila set down her coffee cup with trembling hands. "Yes," she answered simply, knowing her clever boys deserved truth. "That's your father, Ethan Coleman." The admission opened a floodgate of questions. Why hadn't they met him? Did he know about them? Was he the reason they moved so much when they were younger? The twins traded off, one question flowing into another, years of curiosity finally finding voice. Nathan's questions focused on practical matters. Did their father like baseball too? Would he come to their games? Did he know how to make pancakes like Mom? But Lucas, sensing deeper currents, asked the harder questions. "Were you afraid of him? Is that why we never met him?" "No, sweetheart," Lila assured them, fighting tears. "Your father is a good man. I was afraid of other things. Sometimes adults make complicated decisions trying to protect the people they love." The boys processed this information differently. Nathan launched into excited speculation about having a dad, imagining shared activities and future possibilities. Lucas, however, watched his mother with concerned eyes, noticing her tension and unspoken fears. Over the next few days, the twins' knowledge changed their family dynamic. They began noticing things they'd overlooked before: their mother's reaction to business news, their grandmother's careful monitoring of their activities, the security measures that had always seemed normal suddenly carrying new meaning. At school, the boys faced their own challenges. Nathan proudly announced to his class that his father was Ethan Coleman, leading to questions from teachers and classmates. Lucas, more reserved, found himself defending his mother when other children asked why she'd kept them from their father. The twins started secretly collecting newspaper clippings about Ethan, creating a hidden scrapbook of their father's public life. They studied his photos, noting shared features and mannerisms. Nathan was delighted to discover they had their father's smile, while Lucas recognized his own serious expression in Ethan's business portraits. Their questions became more specific, more probing. They wanted to know about Chicago, about how their parents met, about the circumstances that led to their separation. Lila answered as honestly as she could while protecting them from harsher truths, but her son's intelligence made evasion difficult. The knowledge affected their behavior in subtle ways. Lucas became more protective of his mother, watching for signs of distress and trying to shield her from difficult questions. Nathan channeled his energy into learning everything he could about Coleman Industries, proud to be connected to something so significant. Patricia found herself mediating between curiosity and caution, helping the boys understand their complicated family situation while supporting Lila's protective instincts. She caught Lucas looking up Ethan online and Nathan practicing writing Coleman as his last name. The twins' discovery coincided with increased attention on their mother's restaurant, creating a perfect storm of exposure. They began noticing photographers more frequently, understanding now why their mother was so careful about their public appearances. Their games of Spot the Stranger took on new significance. Both boys showed remarkable maturity in keeping their knowledge private, understanding instinctively that their father's identity needed to remain secret. They developed their own code words and signals, creating a private language around their newfound awareness. The impact on their relationship with each other deepened. Already close, the shared secret created an even stronger bond. They processed their feelings together, supporting each other through the complex emotions of discovering their father's identity. The news of Robert Coleman's existence exploded across international media like a thunderclap. The headline Coleman Industries executive found alive dominated every major news outlet, sending shockwaves through Boston's business community. For Lila, reading the news in her restaurant office, the words blurred as memories of Chicago rushed back with terrifying clarity. The story unfolded with devastating precision. Robert Coleman, supposedly killed in a Swiss skiing accident 2 years ago, had been discovered alive in Singapore. The elaborate scheme to fake his death involved body doubles, forged documents, and a network of paid conspirators stretching across 3 continents. But more chilling were the financial records emerging from his exposure years of systematic surveillance focused on a Boston restaurant owner and her twin sons. Martinez arrived at Sevier within hours of the news breaking, his normally composed demeanor showing rare tension. The security team's sweep revealed new surveillance devices installed just days before, suggesting Robert had been preparing for this moment. Each discovery pointed to a man who hadn't just survived but had been meticulously orchestrating events from the shadows. Photographs began surfacing in the media. Robert at charity events in London, business meetings in Dubai, always in the background, always watching. Among them, images that made Lila's blood run cold. Robert at the twins' school events, at their baseball games, in places he should never have been able to access. The careful distance he'd maintained suddenly collapsed, revealing years of calculated observation. The corporate conspiracy emerged piece by piece. Robert had used his position at Coleman Industries to build a shadow network of shell companies and proxy accounts. Financial investigators discovered patterns suggesting long-term planning, resources positioned strategically, allies placed in key positions, all pointing towards some larger scheme centered on the Coleman family legacy. Ethan's arrival at Sevier that evening carried the weight of revelation. The brothers' relationship, complex even before Robert's apparent death, now revealed layers of betrayal neither had suspected. Looking at Ethan's face, Lila recognized the same devastation she'd felt years ago in Chicago, the realization that someone trusted had orchestrated their pain. The evidence of Robert's manipulation stretched back years before his staged death. Security footage from Chicago showed his involvement in events that had driven Lila to flee. Bank records revealed payments to people who had threatened her, all traced through elaborate financial labyrinths designed to hide his hand in their separation. Patricia's phone call from the safe house where she'd taken the twins carried panic beneath her controlled tone. Strange cars had been noticed outside their home, unknown figures watching the house. Robert's network, dormant for years, had suddenly activated with frightening efficiency. The elaborate game he'd been playing was entering its final phase. The media circus intensified as reporters pieced together connections between Robert Coleman's return and the mysterious chef making waves in Boston's culinary scene. Photographs of Lila from Chicago began circulating, paired with recent images from Sevier. The careful separation she'd maintained between past and present crumbled under relentless scrutiny. Robert's first direct contact came through a delivery to Sevier, a simple white envelope containing photos spanning 5 years. The twins' first day of school, Lila's early struggles in Boston, moments that should have been private captured through predatory lenses. The message was clear. He had always been watching, always waiting for this moment. Employee interviews revealed the extent of infiltration. Several staff members admitted being approached by investigators claiming to represent Coleman Industries, asking questions about Lila and her children. The restaurant's security had been compromised multiple times, each breach carefully orchestrated to gather information while maintaining deniability. Financial records showed Robert had been channeling funds through a complex web of offshore accounts, building resources for this moment. The money trail led to hired surveillance teams, private investigators, and informants positioned throughout Boston. His network had grown while he played dead, preparing for an endgame only he fully understood. The timing of his return carried calculated precision. Sevier's success had brought Lila into the spotlight just as the twins reached an age where their resemblance to Ethan became undeniable. Robert had waited until the perfect moment when exposure would cause maximum impact, when the truth about the Coleman heirs would create the greatest disruption. Corporate investigators discovered Robert had been quietly acquiring Coleman Industries stock through proxy buyers, building a significant ownership position while maintaining his cover. His return threatened not just Lila's carefully constructed life, but Ethan's control of the company their father had built. The human cost became apparent as loyal staff members at Sevier faced harassment from reporters and private investigators. Regular customers stopped coming, afraid of being drawn into the growing scandal. The restaurant Lila had built as a haven became a fishbowl, every entrance and exit documented by waiting photographers. As the first day of revelations ended, Lila stood in her empty restaurant, surrounded by the life she'd built and now watched crumbling. The kitchen's familiar sanctuary felt exposed, violated by Robert's long-term surveillance. Every corner held memories now tainted by the knowledge that they'd never truly been alone, that every moment had been observed and documented by a man playing a game spanning years. The sanctuary, as Ethan called it, rose from the New Hampshire wilderness like a fortress disguised as a luxury retreat. Set against the backdrop of dense forest and rolling hills, the sprawling estate represented the Coleman family's ultimate safe haven. Within hours of Robert's reappearance, Martinez's security team orchestrated the carefully planned evacuation of Lila, the twins and Patricia to this secure location. The transition happened under cover of darkness. Lila watched her sons sleep in the SUV's back seat as they wound through country roads, each turn taking them further from the life they'd known. Patricia sat beside her, clutching a hastily packed bag of the boys' essential items, her usual composure strained by the urgency of their departure. Inside the sanctuary, every window was bulletproof, every door reinforced, every approach monitored by state-of-the-art security systems. The grand exterior belied its true purpose, a compound designed to protect the Coleman family in times of crisis. The twins, waking to find themselves in what seemed like a luxury resort, initially treated it as an adventure, unaware of the fear driving their midnight journey. Martinez established a security command center in the estate's converted stable. Monitors displayed feeds from cameras covering every angle of the property, while encrypted communication systems maintained contact with trusted operatives in Boston. The perimeter, marked by a tastefully designed fence, concealed motion sensors and infrared detection systems. Ethan arrived the next morning, having delayed his departure to maintain normal operations at Coleman Industries. His reunion with the twins carried the weight of their recent discovery of his identity. Lucas, ever observant, studied his father with quiet intensity, while Nathan's excitement broke through the tension with innocent questions about the property's swimming pool. The days settled into an uneasy routine. Patricia maintained the boys' education in the well-appointed study, while Lila managed Savoy remotely through Michael, trusting her sous chef to protect both the restaurant and their staff. Ethan split his time between the sanctuary and Boston, each departure marked by lingering hugs from sons still adjusting to their father's presence. Security briefings became a daily ritual. Martinez reported on Robert's movements, tracking his expanding network of allies and informants. The sanctuary's isolation provided protection, but also highlighted the scope of their vulnerability. Every delivery was screened, every visitor thoroughly vetted, every communication encrypted. The twins adapted to their new environment with remarkable resilience. They transformed the vast grounds into their personal playground, though always under the watchful eyes of security personnel. Their games took on new themes. Rather than cowboys and Indians, they played at being spies and protectors, processing their situation through play. Lila and Ethan found themselves navigating not just their children's safety, but their own rekindled connection. Late-night strategy sessions blurred into conversations about the years they'd lost, about choices made under pressure, about hopes for their son's future. The sanctuary became a space where truth could finally emerge, painful but necessary. Patricia watched over all of them, her teacher's instincts helping maintain structure and normalcy. She organized family dinners in the grand dining room, insisted on regular bedtimes, and created homework routines that gave the boys stability amid chaos. Her presence provided continuity, a bridge between their old life and new reality. The sanctuary's staff, all extensively vetted by Martinez, became part of their extended family. The groundskeeper taught the twins about local wildlife, while the housekeeper snuck them extra cookies and shared stories of the estate's history. These small kindnesses helped ease the strain of confinement. Security drills interrupted their days at random intervals, practicing evacuation routes, reviewing emergency procedures, ensuring everyone knew their roles in various scenarios. The twins treated these as games, but Lila saw how Lucas especially absorbed every detail, his inherited instinct for protection emerging. Ethan's security team discovered and neutralized several attempts to breach the sanctuary's perimeter. Each incident confirmed the wisdom of their retreat while highlighting Robert's determination. Surveillance drones were intercepted, suspected scouts identified and turned away, probing attacks on their communications rebuffed. As weeks passed, the sanctuary evolved from refuge to home. Family movie nights in the media room, swimming lessons in the indoor pool, impromptu cooking lessons in the gourmet kitchen. Moments of joy emerged amid the tension. The twins flourished under the consistent presence of both parents, their initial wariness of Ethan transforming into genuine attachment. Yet beneath the surface comfort, vigilance never wavered. Martinez's team maintained constant surveillance, monitoring Robert's growing influence in Boston's business community. Each report confirmed their fears he was building toward something, gathering resources and allies for an endgame they couldn't yet discern. Amanda Porter's return from the dead occurred on a stormy night at the sanctuary, her arrival as dramatic as the lightning that illuminated the estate's grounds. Security cameras caught her scaling the perimeter fence with professional precision, evading most of the detection systems before deliberately triggering one to announce her presence. The face that greeted Ethan in the security office bore little resemblance to the polished CFO who had supposedly died 3 years ago. Her blonde hair was now dark and cropped short, her designer suits replaced by tactical gear. But her eyes held the same sharp intelligence that had once made her one of Coleman Industries' most valuable assets. "Hello, Ethan," she said calmly, ignoring the weapons trained on her. "We need to talk about your brother. He's not just after the company anymore." Her words carried the weight of years of covert investigation, of secrets accumulated while the world believed her dead. The revelation of her survival sent ripples through the sanctuary. For Leela, Amanda's appearance meant another player in an already complex game. For Martinez, it represented both a security breach and a potential ally. For Ethan, it dredged up memories of their brief romance and its bitter end. Amanda's evidence, meticulously gathered over 3 years of shadow operations, painted a disturbing picture. Robert's staged death had provided cover for building an intricate network of shell companies and proxy investments. His ultimate goal wasn't just control of Coleman Industries, it was the complete destruction of everything Ethan held dear. In the sanctuary's library, Amanda laid out her findings: financial records, surveillance photos, intercepted communications, a tapestry of obsession and revenge. She had followed Robert's operation across continents, watching as he positioned pieces for a game only he fully understood. Until now. "He's been watching your son since before they were born," Amanda revealed, spreading photos across the desk. Every doctor's appointment, every school event, every milestone, he documented everything. He was building a case, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The scope of Robert's planning staggered them. He had cultivated allies within Coleman Industries, placed informants in key positions, and accumulated damaging information on board members. His network extended into law firms, private banks, and even child services agencies. Amanda's own story emerged in pieces. The car accident that supposedly killed her had been elaborately staged, using skills learned from tracking Robert's similar deception. She had used her death to operate freely, building her own network of informants and gathering evidence of Robert's activities. Her resources now stood at their disposal: safe houses across Europe, encrypted communication channels, and loyal operatives embedded in Robert's organization. 3 years of playing dead had given her advantages Robert never suspected, channels of information he couldn't detect. The tactical aspects of Amanda's intervention transformed their defensive posture. Her knowledge of Robert's methods allowed them to anticipate his moves, to understand the psychology driving his actions. She recognized patterns in his behavior that others had missed, seeing the larger strategy behind his apparent chaos. For the twins, Amanda's arrival brought unexpected warmth. Despite her hardened exterior, she connected with Lucas and Nathan, teaching them chess and sharing carefully edited stories of their father's younger days. Her presence added another layer of protection, another adult invested in their safety. Patricia found in Amanda an unlikely ally. Both women had sacrificed their former lives to protect those they loved, creating a bond of understanding that transcended their different backgrounds. Together, they helped maintain the sanctuary's delicate balance between fortress and home. The dynamic between Ethan and Amanda carried echoes of their past relationship, but transformed by time and circumstance. Their former romance had ended when she discovered troubling patterns in company finances, patterns that led her to Robert's early schemes. Now, their shared purpose superseded old wounds. Amanda's intelligence network brought daily updates on Robert's movements. She tracked his meetings with corporate raiders, his quiet accumulation of company stock, his careful manipulation of media narratives. Each piece of information helped them understand his endgame while revealing the extent of his obsession. Her presence changed the sanctuary's atmosphere. Security protocols tightened, incorporating her expertise in corporate espionage. Training sessions became more focused, preparing for specific scenarios based on her knowledge of Robert's tactics. The abstract threat became concrete, manageable. Yet Amanda's intervention also raised unsettling questions. Her years of surveillance meant she knew intimate details of their lives: Lila's struggles in Boston, the twins' early years, Ethan's private pain. This knowledge created an uncomfortable intimacy, a reminder that privacy had become a luxury they could no longer afford. The solidarity of Boston's restaurant community revealed itself in unexpected ways during the crisis. As media vultures circled Savour, fellow chefs and restaurant owners formed a protective barrier around Lila's legacy. Michael, running daily operations in her absence, found himself supported by an informal network of industry professionals determined to protect one of their own. The first show of support came from James Beard Award winner Sarah Mitchell, who publicly cancelled her reservation at a reporter's table when she discovered they planned to ambush Michael for information about Lila. Her actions sparked a movement among Boston's culinary elite. Suddenly, any journalist attempting to exploit Severe's situation found themselves unwelcome in the city's finest establishments. In the kitchen, Sevilla's staff demonstrated extraordinary loyalty. Line cooks deflected questions with practiced ease, servers maintained dignified silence in the face of probing inquiries, and even dishwashers rebuffed attempts at bribery from tabloid journalists. Their unity sent a clear message: Lila's family extended beyond blood relations. Regina orchestrated a masterful campaign of misdirection. Working with other restaurants' maitre d's, she helped spread subtle misinformation about Lila's whereabouts, creating so many conflicting stories that legitimate leads became impossible to distinguish from false ones. Her network of front-house professionals became an invaluable intelligence apparatus. Local suppliers, many of whom had worked with Lila since her arrival in Boston, refused to cooperate with investigators attempting to trace her movements. Farmers who supplied Sevilla's produce invented delivery schedules, while fishmongers maintained stubborn silence about their chefs' ordering patterns. The food community closed ranks, protecting its own. The city's food critics, understanding the human story behind the headlines, wrote reviews focusing solely on Sevilla's culinary excellence. They deliberately avoided speculation about Lila's personal life, setting a tone that responsible journalism should focus on her professional achievements rather than private matters. Support manifested in practical ways. When reporters began staking out Sevilla's delivery entrance, neighboring restaurants offered access to their loading docks. When reservation cancellations threatened cash flow, other chefs directed their overflow customers to Sevilla. Each gesture reinforced that Lila wasn't fighting alone. Michael discovered unlikely allies among competing restaurant staff. Line cooks from across the city spent their off hours helping cover shifts at Sevilla, ensuring the restaurant standards never slipped in Lila's absence. Their solidarity transformed potential rivals into partners, all committed to preserving what Lila had built. The restaurant's regular customers launched their own campaign of support. Local business leaders made a point of being seen dining at Sevilla, their presence helping maintain the restaurant's reputation among Boston's elite. Their loyalty provided crucial stability during the turbulent period. Social media became a battlefield where Sevilla's supporters fought back against speculation and rumors. Food bloggers who had experienced Lila's generosity shared stories of her mentorship and community involvement. These personal accounts helped counter the sensationalized narratives emerging in traditional media. The staff's dedication touched Lila deeply as she monitored the situation from the sanctuary. Daily updates from Michael revealed countless small acts of loyalty: servers pooling tips to help a busboy whose hours were cut, line cooks working double shifts to maintain quality, local chefs offering guidance and support to her young team. Even former employees rallied to Sevilla's defense. Those who had worked with Lila during her early days in Boston spoke out about her integrity and dedication to her craft. Their testimonials helped shape public perception, emphasizing her role as a dedicated chef and mother, rather than a subject of scandal. Regina's front-of-house team developed an almost supernatural ability to identify potential troublemakers. Suspicious reservations were quietly rerouted, problematic guests found their tables mysteriously unavailable, and attempts at surveillance were met with polite but firm resistance. The kitchen staff maintained Lila's exacting standards, understanding that excellence was their best defense against controversy. Each perfect dish that left the past represented a statement of continuity and commitment. They operated with the precision of a military unit, united in their mission to protect their chef's legacy. Within the sanctuary's protective walls, the fractured Coleman Bennett family began healing in unexpected ways. The process started during mundane moments: breakfast conversations over Patricia's famous pancakes, homework sessions where Ethan's business acumen helped decode math problems, late-night cooking lessons where Lila taught the twins her culinary secrets. Lucas's acceptance of Ethan emerged gradually through their shared love of chess. Evening games became a ritual, father and son engaged in silent concentration that spoke louder than words. During these matches, Lucas would study Ethan's face, finding his own serious expressions mirrored in his father's features. Slowly, questions began to emerge between moves, careful inquiries about the past, about Chicago, about the years they'd missed. Nathan's approach was more direct. He simply announced one morning that since Ethan was their dad, he should learn all their favorite things. This launched an enthusiastic campaign to educate their father about everything from their preferred breakfast cereals to their secret hideouts around the sanctuary. His genuine interest in their lives, his willingness to learn their world, earned their trust one detail at a time. Patricia watched the transformation with cautious optimism. She observed how Ethan never pushed, never demanded, but remained consistently present. When Lucas had a nightmare, Ethan was there with calm words and patient understanding. When Nathan scraped his knee exploring the grounds, his father's steady hands applied the bandage while sharing stories of his own childhood adventures. The twins' relationship with Lila deepened as well. The strain of secrecy lifted, allowing more honest conversations about their family history. They began asking questions about Chicago, about how their parents met, about the circumstances that led to their separation. Lila answered as truthfully as age-appropriate boundaries allowed, healing old wounds through shared understanding. Family dinners became a sacred time. Lila and the twins would prepare meals together in the sanctuary's kitchen, teaching Ethan basic cooking techniques between fits of laughter. These moments, flour-dusted and informal, did more to bond them than any planned activity. Even Patricia found herself drawn into their warmth, her usual reserve melting as she watched her family become whole. The boys' individual relationships with their father developed distinct characteristics. Lucas sought intellectual connection, drawing Ethan into discussions about books and ideas that revealed his old soul. Nathan craved physical activity, challenging his father to races and swimming competitions that filled the sanctuary with joyful noise. Each boy found his own way to know the man they'd wondered about for so long. Quiet moments proved equally important. Sometimes they'd find Ethan in the library, twins curled against him as he read from his own childhood favorites. Other times, Lila would discover all three fast asleep on the media room couch, a forgotten movie playing in the background. These unguarded instances built trust more effectively than any words could. Patricia's role evolved from protector to bridge builder. Her long experience with the twins helped Ethan understand their personalities and needs. She shared stories of their early years, filling in gaps with photographs and anecdotes that helped him connect with the time he'd missed. Her acceptance of Ethan's presence signaled to the boys that trust was possible. The stress of their situation ironically strengthened their bonds. Shared danger created a fortress mentality, drawing them closer as they faced uncertainty together. The twins developed an even deeper protective instinct toward their parents, while Ethan and Lila found themselves united in their determination to shield their sons from harm. Even amid tension, moments of pure joy emerged. Impromptu dance parties in the kitchen, competitive board game nights, weekend swimming lessons where Nathan finally conquered his fear of deep water. Each experience wove another thread in the fabric of their family bond. These memories, created under extraordinary circumstances, carried special significance. Lila watched Ethan with their sons, seeing him embrace fatherhood with a natural grace that made her heart ache for the years lost. She observed how he adapted his approach to each boy's needs, firm boundaries for Nathan's exuberance, gentle encouragement for Lucas's perfectionism. His commitment to understanding them, to being the father they deserved, proved stronger than any lingering doubts. The sanctuary's isolation created an intensity that accelerated their bonding. Without outside distractions, they focused entirely on each other. Every meal shared, every game played, every conversation held contributed to their growing connection. The fortress meant to protect them became a crucible where their family identity was forged. In the gleaming towers of Coleman Industries' Boston headquarters, a different kind of battle unfolded. Robert's reappearance triggered a cascade of corporate maneuvering that threatened the company's stability. Board members chose sides, shareholders demanded answers, and the media circled like sharks scenting blood in the water. William Blackwood, the longest-serving board member, led the opposition against Ethan. His carefully worded statements to the press suggested concerns about family dynamics affecting corporate governance and the need for stable leadership during uncertain times. Behind closed doors, he rallied support among conservative board members who viewed the scandal as an opportunity for change. The company's stock price fluctuated wildly as rumors spread. Each news cycle brought fresh speculation about the Coleman family drama. Financial analysts debated the implications of Robert's return, while institutional investors pressed for emergency board meetings to address the crisis. The empire Richard Coleman had built teetered on the edge of chaos. Sarah Mitchell, Ethan's executive assistant, became his eyes and ears within the company. Her network of loyal employees provided crucial intelligence about shifting alliances and backdoor meetings. She documented every whispered conversation, every suspicious email, building a clear picture of the corporate coup taking shape. Maya Patel, representing younger board members, stood firmly with Ethan. Her public statements emphasized his successful leadership and ethical reforms. In private board sessions, she challenged Blackwood's faction, demanding evidence for their concerns rather than speculation. Her loyalty rallied others who believed in Ethan's vision for the company. The legal department worked overtime analyzing Robert's potential claims. His years of supposed death complicated inheritance rights and voting shares. More concerning were the documents he'd begun leaking to sympathetic board members, selective evidence suggesting mismanagement under Ethan's leadership. Daily operations suffered as employees chose sides. Department heads delayed decisions, waiting to see who would emerge victorious. Project timelines slipped, contracts remained unsigned, and innovation stalled. The uncertainty created exactly the kind of instability Robert had planned for. Coleman Industries' corporate partners started hedging their bets. Long-term contracts came under review, joint ventures were quietly paused, and potential deals evaporated. Each defection strengthened Robert's position, suggesting that Ethan's leadership had lost market confidence. The pressure mounted when major shareholders began demanding answers. Institutional investors scheduled meetings with both Coleman brothers, evaluating competing visions for the company's future. Family legacy collided with fiduciary duty as board members weighed their options. Richard Coleman's old allies proved particularly troublesome. Many remembered Robert as the more personable brother, the one who attended their family events and remembered their children's names. These emotional connections now translated into boardroom support, despite years of absence. Marketing struggled to control the narrative as employee leaks reached the press. Stories emerged about internal discord, about departments divided between Coleman loyalists. The company's carefully cultivated image of stability crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. Financial reports became political weapons. Robert's supporters highlighted projects that had underperformed, while Ethan's allies emphasized overall growth and increased market share. Numbers that once measured success now served as ammunition in an increasingly bitter power struggle. The younger executives, who had flourished under Ethan's leadership, organized their own resistance to the old guard. They understood that Robert's return threatened not just their CEO, but the progressive corporate culture they'd helped build. And their informal network became crucial in maintaining operational continuity. The board's quarterly meeting approached like an incoming storm. Both sides prepared presentations, gathered supporters, and planned parliamentary maneuvers. The future of Coleman Industries would be decided not by family ties but by proxy votes and shareholder interests. The sanctuary's facade of safety shattered on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Patricia had been reading to the twins in the garden, enjoying rare autumn sunshine, when the first warning signs appeared. Security cameras caught movement in the tree-lined professional infiltrators using the forest's natural cover to approach the compound. Martinez's team responded instantly to the perimeter breach. Guards moved with practiced efficiency, evacuating Patricia and the boys through pre-planned routes while establishing defensive positions. The twins, drilled for this scenario, followed their grandmother's lead without question, though fear showed clearly in their matching green eyes. Inside the main house, Lila and Ethan received the alert simultaneously. Their eyes met across the study, sharing a moment of pure terror before training took over. Lila headed for the panic room where Patricia would be taking the boys, while Ethan joined Martinez in the security center to coordinate their response. The sophistication of the attack became apparent as communications began failing. Someone had deployed signal jammers, cutting off cell phones and internet connections. The sanctuary's backup systems engaged, but the message was clear: this wasn't an opportunistic attempt, but a carefully planned operation. Patricia proved her worth in crisis. Despite her own fear, she kept the twins calm during the rush to safety, turning their evacuation into a game of stealth. Her steady voice provided comfort as security locked down the panic room, its steel doors sealing them away from approaching danger. The attackers struck from multiple directions, demonstrating intimate knowledge of the sanctuary's layout. They avoided obvious security measures while targeting specific vulnerabilities patterns that suggested inside information. Martinez's men found themselves defending against tactics they'd designed themselves. Lila reached the panic room just as the first explosions rocked the compound. Smoke grenades created chaos while tactical teams attempted to breach the mansion's defenses. Through security monitors, she watched shadows move with military precision toward their position. Each step revealed more about their true target, her children. Inside the panic room, Lucas held his brother's hand, his young face set in determination. Nathan, usually boundless with energy, sat perfectly still, understanding the gravity of their situation. Both boys watched the monitors with their father's focused intensity, processing events beyond their years. The attack's true purpose revealed itself when a familiar voice came through the security system. Robert Coleman, speaking directly to the cameras, delivered his message with chilling calm. He wasn't there to harm anyone, he claimed, only to rescue his nephews from those who would deny them their rightful heritage. Ethan's response crackled through emergency channels, each word carrying years of suppressed anger. The brothers' confrontation, witnessed by security teams and family alike, exposed the depth of Robert's obsession. This wasn't just about corporate control, it was about possessing everything Ethan held dear. The sanctuary's defenses held, but the cost was severe. Several security team members sustained injuries, sections of the compound suffered significant damage, and their illusion of safety lay in ruins. More concerning were the questions raised: how had Robert's team known exactly where to strike? In the attack's aftermath, as medical teams treated the wounded and damage assessments began, a more insidious threat emerged. The infiltrators had planted surveillance devices throughout the compound during their retreat. Even in failure, Robert had achieved part of his objective, destroying their sense of security. The twins' reaction to the attack worried both parents. Lucas became hyper-vigilant, watching exits and analyzing visitor movements with adult intensity. Nathan's nightmares began that night, dreams filled with shadowy figures and breaking glass. Their childhood innocence, already fragile, suffered another blow. Patricia's dedication shone through trauma. She maintained routines, insisted on regular meals, and provided stability when everything else felt uncertain. Her presence reminded them all that family meant more than blood, it meant standing together against threats both physical and emotional. Martinez's investigation revealed troubling details. The attack team had used specialized equipment available only to elite military units. Their tactics suggested extensive training and preparation. Worst of all, they had possessed detailed knowledge of security protocols that only insiders should have known. The pursuit began at dawn, when Martinez's surveillance team spotted Robert's private jet filing a flight plan to Geneva. The Swiss connection made terrible sense. The country, where he'd staged his death, now offered sanctuary for his endgame. Within hours, Ethan's corporate jet was ready, loaded with a carefully selected team and equipment for every contingency. Amanda's network proved invaluable, providing real-time intelligence about Robert's movements in Switzerland. He'd been seen entering a private chalet in the Alps, a property purchased through layers of shell companies. The location was remote, defensible, and most worryingly equipped with facilities suitable for long-term occupancy. Lila insisted on joining the mission, despite Ethan's objections. Her argument was simple and irrefutable. "They're my children." The maternal steel in her voice brooked no opposition. Patricia would remain at the sanctuary with heightened security, maintaining a base of operations and managing the growing crisis at Seville. The flight to Switzerland felt endless. Each team member reviewed their roles, studied building layouts, and prepared for multiple scenarios. Yet beneath the professional preparation lay raw fear. They all understood the stakes. Robert had demonstrated his willingness to destroy lives in pursuit of his obsession. Landing in Geneva, they faced their first challenge. Robert had allies within Swiss banking circles, influential figures who owed him favors or feared his secrets. Local authorities moved slowly, bound by bureaucracy that seemed suspiciously targeted. Each delay increased the risk to the children. Amanda's years of covert investigation proved crucial. She had cultivated her own network of Swiss contacts, people who remembered Robert's accident and harbored doubts. Through these channels, they pieced together his movements, property purchases, supply deliveries, security arrangements. But the chalet's location presented tactical challenges. Perched high in the Alps, it commanded views of all approaching routes. Robert had chosen well, selecting a position that would be difficult to approach undetected. Winter weather complicated matters further, with heavy snow limiting access to the narrow mountain roads. Local guides, hired through Amanda's contacts, provided crucial intelligence about the terrain. They knew hidden approaches, weather patterns, and areas of avalanche risk. Their knowledge would prove essential in navigating the treacherous mountain environment while avoiding Robert's surveillance. Martinez's team established a forward base in a nearby village, maintaining the cover of wealthy ski tourists. From here, they monitored the chalet's activities, noting supply deliveries and staff movements. Every observation revealed more about Robert's preparation and resources. Ethan struggled with memories as they planned their approach. He and Robert had skied these same slopes as children, sharing brotherly adventures in happier times. Now those familiar peaks harbored a darker purpose, transformed into the backdrop for family tragedy. Lila focused on practical details, her chef's precision finding purpose in logistics. She studied guard rotations, noted meal delivery times, identified potential weaknesses in the chalet's routine. Her analytical mind, honed by years of kitchen management, brought fresh perspective to tactical planning. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A local housekeeper, hired to maintain the chalet, contacted Amanda through intermediaries. Her information confirmed their worst fears. Robert had created a luxurious prison, complete with classrooms and play areas. He planned to keep the twins long-term. Surveillance photos showed the chalet's extensive security measures, motion sensors, infrared cameras, armed guards with military bearing. Robert had spared no expense in creating his fortress, using wealth accumulated during his years of supposed death. The defenses seemed impenetrable. Time pressed against them as winter storms approached. Weather forecasts predicted heavy snow that would make any rescue attempt impossible. They needed to act soon, but rushing would be fatal. The children's safety demanded perfect execution. Robert Coleman's master plan, when finally revealed, proved more intricate and devastating than anyone had imagined. Through Amanda's intelligence network, they uncovered documents outlining a scheme years in the making, a plan designed not just to take control of Coleman Industries, but to completely rewrite the family legacy. The first layer involved corporate manipulation. Robert had spent his years of supposed death accumulating shares through proxy buyers, building a significant ownership position, but this was merely foundation work. His true strategy centered on the twins using their existence to challenge Ethan's fitness as both CEO and father. Legal documents discovered in Robert's Swiss office revealed the full scope of his intentions. He had built a case painting Ethan as an absent father who had abandoned his children, while portraying himself as the devoted uncle who had watched over them from afar. The narrative was crafted to resonate with both the board and the public. More disturbing were the detailed dossiers Robert had compiled on Lucas and Nathan. Every detail of their lives had been documented: medical records, school reports, psychological assessments conducted through unwitting teachers. He knew their strengths, their fears, their individual personalities, knowledge he planned to exploit. The plan's genius lay in its legal framework. Robert had constructed an argument that would resonate in both corporate and family courts. By proving Ethan had neglected his paternal duties, he could challenge not just corporate leadership, but custodial rights. The twins would become both heirs and hostages. Financial records showed massive payments to child development experts, educational consultants, and family law specialists. Robert had created a complete infrastructure for the twins' future: private tutors, specialized programs, carefully selected schools. Everything designed to prove he could provide the stability their parents had denied them. The psychological aspects were equally calculated. Robert had studied attachment theory, child development, and family dynamics. His plan included detailed strategies for bonding with the twins, exploiting their natural curiosity about their family history while subtly undermining their parents' authority. Evidence suggested Robert's obsession had begun even before the twins' birth. Bank records showed payments to hospital staff in Chicago, tracking Lila's pregnancy from the beginning. He had known about the children before Ethan, using this knowledge as a weapon to be deployed at the perfect moment. The corporate implications were staggering. Robert had prepared legal challenges to every major decision Ethan had made as CEO, arguing that his judgment was compromised by the secret existence of his heirs. The scandal would create enough doubt to force a leadership change, with Robert positioning himself as the stable alternative. Most chilling were the contingency plans. If the twins resisted, Robert had prepared specialists to help them adjust. If Lila or Ethan intervened, he had damaging information ready for release. Every possible reaction had been anticipated and countered, revealing the depth of his psychological manipulation. The plan extended beyond the immediate family. Robert had gathered compromising information on board members, executives, even Patricia. Anyone who might oppose him faced personal exposure. His years of watching had yielded ammunition against every potential ally. But his timing was precisely calculated. The twins' age, Savio's success, Coleman Industries' current projects, all factors had been weighed to maximize impact. Robert hadn't just planned a corporate takeover, he had orchestrated a complete dismantling of his brother's life. The personal nature of his vendetta became clear through private journals found in his office. Pages filled with bitter reflections revealed a man consumed by rivalry, convinced that his brother had stolen their father's love and respect. The twins represented his chance to rewrite that history, to prove himself the better son, brother, and father. The documents revealed Robert's endgame: not just control of Coleman Industries, but the creation of a new family dynasty with himself as patriarch. The twins would be molded into his image, raised to believe in his version of family history. It was a plan born of obsession, nurtured by years of perceived injustice. The moment Robert succeeded in separating the family unfolded with nightmarish precision. During what should have been a routine security shift change at the Swiss base camp, communications suddenly went dark. By the time systems were restored 20 minutes later, the unthinkable had happened. Lucas and Nathan had vanished from their supposedly secure quarters. The initial search revealed sophisticated planning. Security cameras had been looped, showing empty hallways while Robert's team extracted the boys. Guard rotations had been compromised, creating a perfect window of opportunity. Even the mountain weather had cooperated, providing cloud cover that hampered aerial surveillance. Lila's reaction to her son's disappearance transformed her. The composed chef who had faced every challenge with quiet strength shattered, replaced by a mother's primal fear. Her screams echoed through the base camp as she discovered the twins' empty beds, their favorite stuffed animals left behind, silent witnesses to the trauma. Ethan's response was equally devastating but differently expressed. His face turned to stone, eyes hardening with a fury that frightened even Martinez. The corporate titan disappeared, replaced by a father stripped of everything that mattered. His hands shook as he held the note Robert had left there safe with their uncle now, the way they should have been all along. The initial hours after the abduction passed in a blur of frantic activity. Martinez's team combed the mountain paths while local authorities established roadblocks. Amanda's network activated emergency protocols, monitoring airports and border crossings. But Robert had planned too well, using the terrain and weather to maximum advantage. First contact came through the Chalate's sophisticated communication system. Robert's image appeared on their screens, showing the twins in what looked like a luxurious playroom. Lucas sat rigidly in an armchair, his protective arm around Nathan, who couldn't stop crying. Their fear was visible, even through the digital connection. "They're adjusting," Robert announced with clinical detachment. "Nathan's a bit emotional, but Lucas understands the situation. They'll learn that this is best for everyone." His words carried the conviction of a man who believed his own lies, who had justified his actions through years of twisted logic. The psychological impact on the family proved devastating. Lila barely ate or slept, spending hours studying maps and security footage, looking for clues they might have missed. Ethan retreated into silent rage, his only words focused on tactical discussions with Martinez. Their shared pain created distance rather than unity, each lost in private torment. Patricia, still at the sanctuary in Boston, faced her own nightmare. She fielded calls from the twins' school, from worried friends, from severe staff. Each inquiry forced her to maintain the fiction that everything was normal, while carrying the weight of knowing her grandsons were in the hands of a madman. The boys' absence created physical pain. Lila found herself reaching for them instinctively to straighten Lucas's collar, to calm Nathan's energy. Each empty gesture reminded her of their vulnerability. Ethan stood in their temporary bedroom for hours, touching their abandoned possessions, torturing himself with thoughts of what they must be experiencing. Robert's psychological warfare continued through daily video calls. He showed the twins attending lessons with private tutors, playing in elaborate game rooms, receiving everything money could buy. But their eyes told the truth. They were prisoners in a gilded cage, watching their parents through screens, unable to reach them. Lucas, despite his young age, clearly understood the stakes. During calls, he positioned himself to shield Nathan, answering Robert's questions carefully while conveying hidden messages to his parents. His inherited intelligence had become both blessing and curse, allowing him to navigate their captivity while bearing adult burdens. Nathan's naturally buoyant spirit began to dim under confinement. His tears became less frequent but were replaced by something worse: resignation. During calls, he spoke in monotone, his usual enthusiasm suppressed. Each flat response felt like a knife in his parents' hearts, evidence of damage being done to their vibrant child. The separation fractured time itself. Days blurred together in an endless cycle of search attempts, failed leads, and agonizing video calls. But the family unit, so recently strengthened in the sanctuary, now existed in painful fragments: parents without children, brothers without protection, love without presence. As the family crisis unfolded in Switzerland, Coleman Industries faced its own implosion. Robert's carefully orchestrated corporate assault began with a leaked memo to the Wall Street Journal, revealing the existence of Ethan's secret heirs and questioning his fitness to lead. The story exploded across financial media. sending the company's stock into freefall. William Blackwood seized the moment, calling an emergency board meeting in Boston. The timing was devastating. Ethan, trapped in Switzerland searching for his sons, could only participate via video conference. His distraction and obvious distress during the call reinforced doubts about his leadership capacity. The board meeting descended into chaos as Robert's supporters launched their coordinated attack. They presented documentation suggesting Ethan had used company resources to hide his children's existence, implying financial impropriety. Each accusation carried just enough truth to seem credible, while distorting the reality of Lila's flight from danger. Sarah Mitchell fought desperately to maintain control, but the damage spread rapidly. Major clients began suspending contracts, citing leadership uncertainty. Partners distanced themselves from ongoing projects. The press camped outside company headquarters, turning every employee arrival into a media circus. Maya Patel rallied younger board members in Ethan's defense, but faced an uphill battle. Robert's narrative resonated with old guard directors who remembered him as the more personable brother. His concern for his nephew's welfare played well with those who valued traditional family structures. The company's stock price dropped 30% in 3 days. Shareholders demanded answers about succession plans and corporate governance. Institutional investors scheduled emergency meetings with board members. The stability Ethan had built over years crumbled under the weight of scandal. Legal teams worked frantically to counter Robert's claims, but struggled against his masterful manipulation of facts. He had documents showing company security resources used to protect Lila and the twins, evidence of misappropriation in hostile hands. Every defensive move seemed to trigger another carefully planned trap. Department heads reported growing chaos within the organization. Employees took sides, productivity plummeted, and rumors spread like wildfire. Middle managers, uncertain of future leadership, delayed crucial decisions. Innovation stalled as research teams worried about project funding. The media narrative spun completely out of control. Business publications that had once praised Ethan's ethical leadership now questioned every decision. Photos of the twins appeared in tabloids, their resemblance to both Coleman brothers fueling speculation about family dynamics and corporate succession. Robert's supporters on the board proposed a temporary leadership change, citing Ethan's personal distractions. The motion failed narrowly, but demonstrated growing vulnerability. Each hour Ethan spent searching for his children weakened his corporate position, exactly as Robert had planned. Financial reports leaked showing recent underperformance in key divisions. The numbers, stripped of context, painted a picture of declining leadership. Robert's allies used this data to argue for immediate change, presenting him as the stable alternative who could restore market confidence. International partners began expressing concerns. Joint ventures in Asia and Europe faced increased scrutiny from local regulators. The company's global reputation, built carefully over generations, showed cracks under pressure. Each setback validated Robert's criticism of Ethan's leadership. Long-term employees watched in horror as their stable workplace transformed into a battleground. HR reported increased stress leaves and resignation notices. The company's carefully cultivated corporate culture, emphasizing ethics and innovation, gave way to political maneuvering and self-preservation. Credit rating agencies placed Coleman Industries under review, citing governance concerns. This triggered clauses in loan agreements, forcing emergency meetings with banking partners. The financial infrastructure Ethan had strengthened now threatened to unravel under suspicion. The breaking point came when Robert delivered his ultimate ultimatum during a private video call. His terms were simple but devastating. Ethan would surrender control of Coleman Industries, sign away all parental rights, and withdraw completely from the twins' lives. In exchange, Lucas and Nathan would be returned to Lila with generous financial support and guaranteed visitation for Patricia. Lila immediately refused, her maternal instinct rejecting any deal that separated her sons from their father. But Ethan's response surprised everyone. He began considering the offer. His rationale, delivered in a voice heavy with pain, centered on one truth: the boy's safety mattered more than anything else. The debate that followed divided the family. Patricia argued passionately against acceptance, insisting they would find another way. Amanda's team presented alternative strategies, each riskier than the last. Martinez warned that giving in to Robert's demands wouldn't guarantee the twins' safety. Watching another video call with the boys tipped the scales. Lucas's attempts at bravery were cracking, his young shoulders bearing too much weight. Nathan's spirit continued to dim, his usual sparkle fading. Each day in Robert's custody left deeper marks on their children's souls. Ethan made his decision alone. In the early hours of a Swiss morning, he drafted 2 documents: his resignation as CEO of Coleman Industries and a temporary surrender of parental rights. His hands shook as he signed, decades of family legacy and fatherly dreams reduced to legal formalities. Lila found him afterward in the twins' empty room, holding Lucas's favorite book. Her initial anger at his unilateral decision melted at the sight of his devastation. Together they sat surrounded by their son's abandoned possessions, sharing a grief too deep for words. The sacrifice extended beyond Ethan. Lila would need to relocate with the boys, cutting ties with Saveur and the life she'd built in Boston. Patricia agreed to limit contact to protect the twins' new identity. Their entire support network would be dismantled to meet Robert's demands. Amanda argued fiercely against submission, presenting evidence that Robert's empire had weaknesses they hadn't exploited. But she fell silent when Ethan showed her recent photos of the twins. The psychological damage visible in their eyes made corporate battles seem meaningless. Martinez's team prepared for the exchange with military precision, despite knowing they would be powerless to intervene. Their professional detachment cracked only when packing the twins' belongings. Tough security operatives reduced to tears by small sneakers and favorite toys. Robert's response to Ethan's acceptance carried the cruel satisfaction of a man who had orchestrated the perfect revenge. His video message, delivered with false sympathy, detailed the transfer arrangements while emphasizing his regret that such measures had been necessary. The sacrifice demanded more than signatures. Ethan would need to make a public statement accepting responsibility for poor judgment in both corporate and personal matters. His reputation, built on integrity and ethical leadership, would be deliberately destroyed to protect his children. Lila's participation required her to publicly thank Robert for his intervention, acknowledging his role as the twins' protector. Each word would be a lie, but she agreed to speak them, understanding that her children's freedom demanded this final humiliation. Patricia faced her own heart-wrenching choice, accepting severely restricted access to her grandsons in exchange for their return. Her agreement to these terms, after years of being their primary support, demonstrated love's capacity for selfless sacrifice. The mounting personal costs revealed themselves in quiet moments. Ethan's hands trembling as he packed away family photos. Lila's tears while closing down her beloved restaurant. Patricia's silent grief while preparing the sanctuary for abandonment. Each sacrifice adding to the weight of their decision. The truth about Robert Coleman emerged through an unexpected source. Among the documents Amanda discovered in his Swiss office was a worn leather journal, its pages filled with increasingly disturbed writings dating back to childhood. The contents revealed a psychological landscape far more complex and tragic than anyone had imagined. The journal's earliest entries painted a picture of a sensitive child living in the shadow of his seemingly perfect older brother. While Ethan excelled naturally, Robert struggled silently with undiagnosed anxiety and depression. Their father's constant comparisons and subtle favoritism created deep wounds that festered over decades. More shocking was the revelation about their mother's death. What the family had always believed was a car accident was actually suicide, triggered by her inability to reconcile her son's growing rivalry. Robert had discovered the truth at 16 but kept it hidden, protecting Ethan while privately blaming him for their mother's decision. The entries turned darker during Robert's college years. His academic achievements, though impressive, never seemed to match Ethan's natural leadership abilities. Each family gathering became an exercise in suppressed rage, each corporate success by his brother another twist of the knife. His writings revealed a man increasingly consumed by the need to prove his worth. Medical records tucked between journal pages revealed another layer of tragedy. Robert had been diagnosed with a terminal illness 3 years before staging his death. The diagnosis sparked his elaborate plan. If he couldn't outlive his brother, he would orchestrate the perfect revenge, ensuring his impact would survive him. The journal detailed his growing obsession with Lila and the twins. He saw them as instruments of justice, a way to finally wound his brother as deeply as he felt wounded. Every surveillance photo, every secret observation became evidence in his private trial of Ethan's worthiness as father and leader. Personal letters found with the journal exposed Robert's own failed attempts at family life. A fiancée who left him, citing his inability to form genuine connections. A child lost to miscarriage, leaving him to watch Ethan's unknown sons from afar. Each loss fed his conviction that his brother had somehow stolen his chance at happiness. The most recent entries revealed a man aware of his own deteriorating mental state but unable to stop his downward spiral. His writings alternated between moments of clarity recognizing the damage he was causing and elaborate justifications for his actions. The twins became central to his delusion, representing his last chance to reshape the Coleman legacy. Financial documents mixed with journal entries showed how Robert had channeled his business genius into revenge. Every investment, every shell company, every strategic move had dual purpose, building resources for his plan while creating a web to trap his brother. His illness added urgency to his schemes, racing against time to complete his revenge. Private medical reports indicated his condition was worsening faster than anticipated. This explained the accelerated timeline of his attacks, the increasing desperation in his actions. The man who had planned for years now found himself running out of time, pushing him toward riskier decisions. Psychiatric evaluations, secretly conducted during his years in hiding, diagnosed severe personality disorders exacerbated by terminal illness. The combination created a dangerous psychological cocktail, a brilliant mind untethered from moral constraints, driven by decades of perceived injustice and the knowledge of impending death. The journal's final pages contain something unexpected: childhood photos of the Coleman brothers, images of Robert and Ethan playing together, laughing, sharing moments of genuine brotherly love. These memories, preserved while plotting destruction, suggested a deep ambivalence about his chosen path. Letters written but never sent to Ethan revealed Robert's complex emotional landscape. In them, he alternated between seeking forgiveness and justifying his actions, between loving his brother and hating what he represented. Each unsent letter added another layer to the tragedy of their relationship. Most devastating were the detailed plans for the twins' future. Robert had created elaborate scenarios for molding them into his image, seeing them as his chance for immortality. His legacy would live through them, even as illness claimed him, a final victory over the brother who had everything he'd ever wanted. The revelation of Amanda Porter's true identity unfolded during a tense moment in the Swiss crisis. While reviewing old hospital records related to Robert's surveillance, Lila discovered a photograph that stopped her heart, a young girl she recognized as herself, standing beside an identical twin sister she'd never known existed. The truth emerged in fragments. Patricia, confronted with the evidence, finally revealed the family's darkest secret. During a devastating financial crisis 30 years ago, her husband had made an impossible choice, separating their twin daughters, giving one up for adoption to ensure at least one child would have opportunities they couldn't provide. Amanda, born Amanda Bennett, had been adopted by the wealthy Porter family. Her exceptional intelligence and financial acumen, mirror images of Lila's culinary talent, led her to Coleman Industries. The sisters, unknowingly, had orbited each other's lives for years, drawn together by forces they didn't understand. The emotional impact of this discovery rocked everyone involved. Lila's memories of childhood loneliness, of inexplicable feelings of incompleteness, suddenly made sense. Amanda's driven nature, her instinctive protection of Lila despite their supposed professional distance, revealed deeper bonds than mere loyalty. Patricia's grief poured out after decades of silence. She described watching Amanda's career from afar, sending anonymous birthday cards, carrying the weight of separation while honoring her late husband's decision. Her support of Lila's escape with the twins had been partially motivated by her own guilt over a previous family separation. Medical records confirmed their connection. The twins' birth certificates, hospital photos, adoption papers, all carefully hidden by parents desperate to protect their children from poverty. Amanda had discovered her adoption status years ago, but never imagined finding her sister in her brother-in-law's girlfriend. The sisters' reunion, despite the crisis surrounding them, carried decades of pent-up emotion. They discovered shared mannerisms, identical laughs, similar ways of analyzing problems from multiple angles. Their differences, Lila's artistic nature, Amanda's mathematical mind, complemented each other perfectly. Their separation explained Amanda's fierce dedication to exposing Robert's schemes. She had recognized something in Lila, an inexplicable connection that drove her to protect someone she barely knew. Her decision to fake her death and investigate Robert stemmed partly from this unconscious bond. The twins' own connection took on new meaning for Lila. Watching Lucas and Nathan's close relationship, she understood better the void she'd always felt. Amanda too had unconsciously sought this connection, her unmarried status and focus on career masking a deeper sense of incompleteness. The Porter family's wealth had given Amanda advantages Lila never had: private schools, international travel, advanced degrees. Yet Lila had found her passion in kitchens, building success through raw talent and determination. Their different paths led to the same strength of character. Patricia's relationship with both daughters entered a new phase. Years of compensating for Amanda's absence by overprotecting Lila, of watching one daughter from afar while raising another, had shaped her parenting in ways she was only now beginning to understand. The revelation created a new dynamic in their fight against Robert. The sisters combined their strengths, Amanda's financial expertise and Lila's intuitive understanding of people, to form a formidable team. Their synergy offered fresh perspectives on Robert's possible weaknesses. Personal items Amanda had kept secretly through the years emerged: childhood photos Patricia had sent anonymously, newspaper clippings of Lila's early cooking achievements, a traced outline of her twins' hand from their birth records. Each item represented a connection maintained across decades of separation. The timing of this discovery added layers of irony. As they fought to prevent the separation of another set of twins, the adult sisters found their way back to each other. Their reunion offered hope that even long-lost family bonds could be restored, that separation need not be permanent. The revelation of David Chen's true role came at the most critical moment of the crisis. As Martinez's most trusted lieutenant and head of Ethan's personal security detail, he had been present for every strategic meeting, every family discussion, every painful decision. His betrayal, when discovered, seemed to destroy their last hope of rescuing the twins. Yet Chen's apparent treachery masked a deeper loyalty. For 3 years he had maintained a careful masquerade, appearing to work as Robert's informant while actually gathering evidence of his crimes. Each report to Robert had been carefully crafted to protect the family while building trust with their enemy. The truth emerged during a crucial security breach at Robert's Swiss compound. Chen's access codes, supposedly leaked to Martinez's team, triggered alarms that should have trapped them. Instead, they found carefully mapped escape routes, disabled security systems, and vital intelligence about the twins' location. Files discovered on Chen's encrypted laptop revealed the extent of his double game. While feeding Robert selected information about Ethan's movements, he had documented every illegal order, every threatening conversation, every piece of evidence that could expose Robert's criminal enterprise. His deception had been masterful and complete. Chen's motivation stemmed from personal history. As a young officer, he had witnessed Robert's ruthless destruction of a rival company, leading to multiple suicides among displaced workers. One victim had been Chen's father, a mid-level manager who lost everything in the takeover. His infiltration of Coleman Industries began as a quest for revenge but transformed into a mission to protect Ethan's more ethical leadership. The psychological toll of his long deception showed in private journals. Chen had struggled with guilt over appearing to betray Ethan's trust, even knowing his actions served a greater purpose. His detailed records of the twins' activities transmitted to Robert had been carefully edited to protect their most vulnerable moments while maintaining his cover. When confronted by Martinez, Chen revealed the full scope of his operation. He had built a network of similarly disillusioned former employees, all victims of Robert's machinations, all working quietly to document his crimes. Their evidence, combined with Amanda's financial investigations, created an overwhelming case against Robert. The personal cost of Chen's loyalty became clear as his story unfolded. He had maintained complete isolation from his family, knowing Robert would investigate any close connections. His marriage had ended, unable to withstand the strain of constant deception. Every personal sacrifice had been made in service of justice. Most crucial was Chen's careful cultivation of Robert's trust. By appearing to betray Ethan, he had gained access to Robert's inner circle, becoming one of few people allowed near the twins during their captivity. This position had allowed him to protect the boys in subtle ways, ensuring their physical safety while gathering evidence. His closest call came when Robert, growing suspicious, ordered Chen to prove his loyalty by eliminating a potential threat. Chen had orchestrated an elaborate deception, faking the target's death while actually helping them escape to safety. The incident demonstrated both his resourcefulness and his moral boundaries. Martinez's initial fury at discovering Chen's apparent betrayal transformed into grudging admiration as the full scope of his operation became clear. The security chief recognized the extraordinary discipline required to maintain such deep cover, acknowledging that Chen's deception had fooled even his trained assessment. The twins, during their captivity, had sensed something different about Chen. Lucas particularly had noticed how the guard's stern demeanor softened when alone with them, how he would whisper brief words of comfort when others weren't watching. These small kindnesses had helped them maintain hope during their darkest hours. Chen's evidence proved crucial in the final confrontation with Robert. Years of recorded conversations, documented threats, and witnessed crimes provided leverage that even Robert's elaborate legal defenses couldn't overcome. The loyal guard's patience had built an unassailable case against their enemy. The personal toll of Chen's years undercover became evident in quiet moments after the crisis. Nightmares plagued his sleep. Trust came difficultly, and normal relationships seemed foreign after so long living a lie. Yet he maintained that protecting the Coleman family, particularly the twins, had been worth every sacrifice. But the reunion of the Coleman-Bennett family unfolded in the early hours of a Swiss morning. Chen's intelligence had proven accurate. Robert's deteriorating health had forced him to lower his guard, creating the opening they needed. Martinez's team, armed with detailed blueprints and security protocols, executed a precision operation that secured the twins without a shot fired. Lucas and Nathan's first moments of freedom revealed both resilience and trauma. The boys clung to each other as they had throughout their captivity, Lucas maintaining his protective stance even as they ran to their parents' arms. Nathan's tears flowed freely for the first time in weeks, while Lucas finally allowed his brave facade to crack. The family's initial embrace lasted eternally, none willing to break contact after so long apart. Lila and Ethan enveloped their sons, Patricia wrapped her arms around all of them, and even Amanda stood close, guarding this precious moment. Tears flowed freely, words proved unnecessary, and healing began in the simple act of touch. Medical examinations revealed the physical toll of captivity: slight weight loss, minor sleep deprivation, the effects of constant stress. But the boys' underlying health remained good, testament to Robert's paradoxical care in maintaining their well-being even while inflicting emotional damage. Psychological recovery began immediately. Both boys showed signs of post-traumatic stress: Nathan's nightmares, Lucas's hypervigilance, but their inherent strength shone through. They spoke openly about their experiences, processing fear and confusion with their parents' gentle guidance. The journey home became a celebration of small normalities. Nathan's excited chatter about missing his favorite breakfast cereal, Lucas's quiet request to sleep in his own bed, both boys' determination to catch up on missed schoolwork, each moment represented a step toward healing. Savour's kitchen staff organized a welcome home feast that brought tears to Lila's eyes. The twins helped prepare their favorite dishes, reclaiming joy in family traditions. But the simple act of cooking together became therapy, reconnecting them through familiar routines and shared pleasure in creation. Ethan's relationship with his sons deepened through the recovery process. His patience in handling their lingering fears, his willingness to answer difficult questions about Uncle Robert, his steady presence during nightmares all demonstrated the father he had become. The crisis had forged stronger bonds than Robert's separation could break. Patricia moved into the family's home temporarily, providing additional stability during the transition. Her presence helped maintain routines, offered comfort during difficult moments, and reminded everyone that family support remained constant even after trauma. The twins' individual healing paths reflected their personalities. Lucas processed through logic, asking detailed questions about Robert's motives and actions. Nathan worked through his emotions physically, requiring extra hugs and reassurance while gradually reclaiming his natural exuberance. School reintegration was handled carefully, with teachers and counselors briefed on the situation. Classmates welcomed the twins back with innocent enthusiasm, helping normalize their lives. The boys' resilience showed in their quick readaptation to academic routines. Family therapy sessions became a crucial part of recovery. The twins learned to express their fears safely, while Lila and Ethan gained tools to support their healing. Even Patricia and Amanda participated, strengthening the family unit's ability to process trauma together. The legal aftermath provided closure without additional trauma. Robert's illness had advanced significantly during the crisis, leading to his placement in a secure medical facility. The twins would never have to face him in court, allowing them to focus on healing rather than testimony. Most importantly, the family emerged stronger. Their bonds, tested by separation and fear, proved unbreakable. The twins' trust in their parents' protection grew deeper, while Lila and Ethan's commitment to their son's well-being became even more fierce. Love had overcome Robert's attempts at destruction. The resurrection of Coleman Industries' reputation began with a single press conference. Ethan, supported by his entire family, faced the media with quiet dignity. The evidence provided by Chen and Amanda painted a clear picture of Robert's manipulation, transforming the narrative from corporate scandal to triumph over adversity. Board member William Blackwood's resignation came first, followed by others who had supported Robert's schemes. Maya Patel led the restructuring of corporate governance, implementing stronger oversight measures while maintaining Ethan's vision for ethical business practices. The company's stock price began a steady recovery. Sarah Mitchell orchestrated a masterful media campaign, releasing carefully selected documents that revealed Robert's long-term manipulation of corporate resources. Public sympathy shifted as the true story emerged: a family and company under siege by one man's obsession, fighting back with integrity and determination. The corporate response to Robert's campaign proved remarkably resilient. Major clients who had suspended contracts returned, often with expanded commitments. Partners who had distanced themselves during the crisis sought to strengthen their relationships with Coleman Industries. The market recognized and rewarded the company's stability under pressure. International operations recovered swiftly. Chen's evidence exposed Robert's interference in global partnerships, allowing for repair and reinforcement of crucial business relationships. Asian markets particularly responded well to the family's unity in crises, viewing it as a sign of strong leadership. Employee loyalty proved instrumental in rebuilding. Staff who had maintained faith during the darkest days received recognition and rewards. The company's culture, tested by crisis, emerged stronger. Team members spoke proudly of standing with Ethan against corruption, creating a powerful internal narrative. Financial restructuring addressed damage from Robert's schemes. Amanda's expertise proved invaluable in unwinding complex financial traps while strengthening the company's fiscal position. New investment poured in as market confidence returned, attracted by the company's demonstrated resilience. The legal team, armed with Chen's evidence, systematically dismantled Robert's network of shell companies and proxy holdings. Each victory recovered assets and restored control to legitimate corporate governance. The process revealed the full scope of Robert's manipulation while proving the company's commitment to transparency. Corporate headquarters buzzed with renewed energy. Innovation projects resumed with increased funding, delayed decisions received swift attention, and strategic planning looked confidently toward future growth. The crisis had pruned away weak elements while strengthening core operations. Young executives who had supported Ethan found their loyalty rewarded with increased responsibilities. Fresh perspectives joined senior management, bringing new ideas while maintaining ethical standards. The company's leadership pipeline emerged stronger, ensuring stable succession for generations. Industry recognition followed recovery. Business publications that had questioned Ethan's leadership now praised his resilience. Awards celebrated Coleman Industries' commitment to corporate responsibility even under pressure. The company became a case study in crisis management and ethical leadership. Market analysts revised their projections upward as quarterly results exceeded expectations. The company's stock price reached new highs, validating Ethan's leadership approach. Institutional investors increased their positions, demonstrating long-term confidence in corporate stability. Research and development flourished under renewed stability. Innovation teams, freed from crisis management, pursued ambitious projects. New patents and products demonstrated the company's undiminished creative energy. Each success further distanced Coleman Industries from past troubles. Most significantly, the company's ethical foundation grew stronger through adversity. Ethan's unwavering commitment to principles, even at personal cost, set an example throughout the organization. Corporate culture evolved to emphasize both excellence and integrity, creating a legacy beyond profit margins. 1 year after the crisis, Saveur celebrated its grand reopening with a private family dinner. The restaurant, expanded and renovated, now included a teaching kitchen where Lila mentored young chefs from disadvantaged backgrounds. The twins, now 6, proudly helped prepare the first course, their confidence in the kitchen reflecting healing and growth. The Coleman-Bennett family had found its natural rhythm. Ethan balanced corporate leadership with active fatherhood, never missing a school event or baseball game. Lila's culinary empire grew thoughtfully, each new venture creating opportunities for others while maintaining time for family priorities. The twins thrived under their parents' united care, their trauma transformed into resilience. Patricia and Amanda became integral parts of the expanding family circle. The sisters' bond strengthened through shared experiences and rediscovered connections. Sunday dinners became a cherished tradition, the table always set with an extra place for Chen, whose quiet dedication had earned him honorary family status. Lucas developed his father's business instincts alongside his mother's creativity. His protective nature evolved into natural leadership, showing particularly in his mentoring of younger students. The serious child who had shielded his brother through captivity now channeled that strength into positive influence. Nathan's exuberant spirit returned fully, enriched by deeper emotional awareness. His energy found outlets in sports and cooking, excelling in both team activities and creative pursuits. The shadows in his eyes faded, replaced by genuine joy that lifted everyone around him. The restaurant community support during the crisis transformed into lasting partnerships. Sevilla's apprenticeship program, funded by Coleman Industries' charitable foundation, created opportunities for aspiring chefs. The kitchen became a place of healing and growth for many beyond the family. Educational initiatives born from their experience helped other families cope with trauma. Lila and Ethan spoke carefully at selected events, sharing their story to support child protection programs. Their advocacy led to improved security protocols in schools and increased resources for family counseling services. Patricia's role evolved beyond grandmother to community grandmother, her teaching background proving valuable in the apprenticeship program. Her presence provided stability for young people facing their own challenges, while her experience helped guide families through difficult transitions. Amanda found personal fulfillment beyond corporate success. Her relationship with her newfound family healed old wounds, while her financial expertise helped establish scholarship funds for separated siblings seeking reunion. The sister she never knew she had became the catalyst for widespread positive change. The twin school became a model for supporting children through trauma. Programs developed for Lucas and Nathan's recovery expanded to help other students facing various challenges. Their experience sparked improvements in educational approaches to emotional well-being and family support. Chen's loyalty received formal recognition through appointment as head of family and corporate security. His methods, emphasizing prevention and protection over confrontation, revolutionized industry standards. Under his guidance, both Sevilla and Coleman Industries developed exemplary safety protocols. Community outreach became a family mission. Regular charity events at Sevilla combined Lila's culinary skills with Ethan's business network, raising funds for family support services. The twins participated enthusiastically, understanding from experience the importance of helping others. The future held promise beyond survival. Plans for Sevilla's expansion included community cooking schools in underserved neighborhoods. Coleman Industries established ethical business practices that influenced industry standards. Each family member found ways to transform their ordeal into opportunity for others. But most importantly, love proved stronger than trauma. The family bonds tested by crisis emerged unbreakable, their shared experience creating deeper understanding and appreciation. They moved forward not as survivors but as thrivers, their story offering hope to others facing their own challenges. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey through the story of the Coleman-Bennett family. What would you do in Lila's situation? How far would you go to protect your children? What sacrifices would you make for family? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your perspective and insights make our community stronger and help others facing similar challenges. If you found value in this story, please consider subscribing to our channel for more compelling family narratives. Share this video with friends and loved ones who might find strength in this tale of resilience and unconditional love. Don't forget to hit the like button to help us reach more viewers. Your support enables us to continue bringing you these powerful stories of family, love, and triumph over adversity.